Okay, take five on this. And again, sorry that I say again, you haven't seen the previous part. I'm recording this a little bit from a different venue because we've got a dog in here who we are pet sitting for our neighbor who is in the hospital right now. So we're taking care of him. And he is having a hard time adjusting to a cat being in the house. And I mean that only in the sense that he's very excited and he wants to do all of the things. And that's just like, no, you need to chill out, dude. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about what's been going on with me in terms of, well, I'll just say everything. So, still slowly losing weight, hoping that the energy is coming back. I've had like whispers that it's going to come back soon, but I need to like maintain an exercise regimen and all of the things. So, and that's wonderful. This is from the Angels of Medicine, by the way, but I need to maintain it. So that's going on. And then on top of that, I worked with Hekate and she changed up a little bit how she wanted to meet, and that's fine. So I had a lunar eclipse and it was on the astral imaginal, but I did have everything ready to do it in the physical plane. So, but she was happy about that. So I ordered a little statuette. So she's going to be, looking over the house, so over the threshold, which is an appropriate place to have the guardian of the deity of the crossroads and that liminal space. So that went very well. On top of that, I've been working with, I just printed out some iconography of the Egyptian deity Bes. I already have one for Isis and for Artemis of Ephesus and for Pan, and for the Egyptian deity Sobek. So all of these are to gear up. So basically, depending on, what happens with my health and stuff like that, some future very long-term magical work. Relatively long. I mean, I don't know. So anyway, so that's going on. And sorry, I'm just lying back here holding the phone with this hand. Uh, so that's been good. And basically, I just feel like it's long-term fertility magic. Right now, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do want to be prepared in the event that I outlive my life to have that door open to me, basically. But in the meantime, if it doesn't work out, then at least I'm establishing a good relationship with deities, and then whatever new phase I move on to whenever I die, then that'll be it. So that's what's going on there. I did want to talk about a bigger thing, which is a potential name change coming up for me, a legal name change. So that's like, oh, that's kind of a big thing. And yeah, it is. So my plan is to take on my wife's last name, mainly because, and also change my first and middle names. So there was a dispute before I was born about what my name ought to be if it were a boy, and so were I a boy, I should say. People who are looking at this are going to be like, he doesn't speak, like normal English, and I'm like, yeah, but this is like, were I a boy is actually, if you go back, anyway, yeah, I probably sound pretentious. Oh well. Anyhow, there was a dispute, and as a way to sort of like sharpen that dispute after my parents divorced, my mom had me go by my middle name, which is Joel, and she wanted that to, so I was known as Joey growing up. So like, what are you doing, mom? And then I decided at 10 that I wanted my first name again, and mom is okay, for whatever reason I wanted that. And so I went by that, and then I went by Cliff for short. So, but the fact that there was like a dispute, my dad wanted Clifton, and then my mom wanted Joel, and that whole thing. And meanwhile, I never really felt like either of those names very much. I felt Clifton was better, so I just went with that one. It's like I had to choose, but as an adult, it's like you don't think about that. You're just like, I got to get my life going. But I'm pretty well established in my career and blah blah blah. And on top of that, it's just like, well, that's my name. Well, I've uh, I've been. I'm gonna like try to like say this relatively briefly. Due to my a discrepancy between my father's personality and my own, I have not really been in contact with him very much. I've been very low contact, and just I'll just say oil and water, so that it doesn't. This doesn't sound very blamey. My mom has passed away, and I have not told the whole story. And I won't tell the whole story here. I'll try to keep it like under under 5 minutes. I'll try to keep it under three. Basically, my mom had always believed that the world was going to end and it was going to happen soon. And then, she basically was in this habit of believing she was the most important, her and her beliefs, that was the most important thing, and raised us very, very strongly in those beliefs. Not a lot of room to be an independent thinker. And which is sad because, then you wind up raising kids who are only living for the things that, who knows, right? Anyway, so she was very much a believer in the literal end times, that Jesus was going to come back, that people would be raptured up out of the earth and off the earth and into the heavens and stuff like that. And ironically enough, that none of that happened. She just died. And she died of COVID, and she did not get vaccinated in spite of my suggestion to her that she should, my strong suggestion. She didn't listen. This was a habit of hers, is not listening to her children. So when my stepfather died in 23, and he was deserted by my mother when he had 4 months left to live and was in, long-term, basically hospice care. And basically all the care fell to my younger sister for him. And she abandoned him, and she drove down to Texas, which is the state I live in. She got within probably like 45 minutes away of where I live, never said anything until she had already been out of the state again for, 2 full weeks. And I found out the day after my birthday that she had abandoned him. And so, very long story short, she does this to my stepdad, who raised me, more or less, since I was 3. And she decided that, she was going to have some quote unquote project, probably related to the end of the world, which never happened, of course. She winds up dying a year later of COVID. So he dies of cancer, and then a year later she dies of COVID. In the meantime, she marries this guy who she picked up from Texas, who had felony drug and meth convictions. He got off on one of those things that I'll characterize as a technicality. So basically, that was it, and she got her year of life doing whatever, and then she died. So all of this is to say that growing up with somebody who, the thing is that all along the way she was lying a lot. So the point of this is that she exhibited a lot of what we would call narcissistic behavior, and she did a lot of lying, and verifiable lies, which was sad. And I came to realize just how much she was probably lying to me her whole life. And if you don't know, or if you can't verify this stuff, and it's not until you're an adult that you see this stuff. And she and I were already low contact, so I wasn't aware of all of this to the degree that I should have been. Anyway, I'm not going to blame myself for being lied to, So anyhow, all of this is to say I'm disappointed in my mom. And my father and I are not on the best terms, and I've never really felt like I have much in common with the previous generation, really. I have uncles and I have an aunt, and it's just like, I'm not really in touch with them that much. And it's not to say that I hate them. I don't. I just have like zero like emotional resonance with them. So I just decided, my mom and my dad had, you know, were contentious about my name, and she wanted me to go by my middle name. So I grew up with that as my name. And then when I was 10, I decided to change that back to my first name. She's like, oh, okay, like, what are you going to argue with your kid about what name? So but regardless, I have like there's no strong resonance that I have with any of my names. So I'm going to go with the name change. So because I've been very much into Enochian, Enochian and Buddhism are like the two things that I'll probably do for the rest of my life. That's not going to change. So I have strong resonance with those spiritual practices. So I'm going to do a legal name change. So I'm going to do Michael as my first name, Metatron as my middle name, and then I'm going to take my wife's last name. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. I think that she's mainly been my main family for, the large part of my adult life. And so that's it, and then that'll be my new name, and, that'll be that. So at least this lineage of my last name will no longer be carried on. And instead it'll be my wife's name, which is fine. I think that's life. So anyway, so on top of that, I've been petitioning some fertility deities. In the event that my wife predeceases me by a long time, then, I want to have that door open. If not, then I will, oh, well, then I guess I'll meet the world of spirit then. But I do feel pretty, sorry, I'm adjusting this. My shoulder gets tired, stuff like that. But anyway, so that's what's going on there. So right now there's going to be an eclipse on my Mercury, which has to do with communication. And it's in my 9th house. So literally I'm getting like some spirituality, beliefs, stuff like that associated with literally how people will communicate to me and vice versa. So I'll just have a new name. So I think that's pretty cool. So that process is already starting. Chances are that will take a little while to get scheduled, and I have a feeling it'll happen in 2026 at some point. So I'm excited about that. It's a new thing, and now you know the whole story. My biological father is still alive. I don't want to get too much into that, but suffice it to say that we will probably be low contact, very low contact to no contact for the rest of his life. So that's what's going on there. So some big changes are afoot. I'm doing this, making these plans and thinking about this and being open about this during Aries season, in which the sun is prominent and my chart ruler is the sun, or the sun gets extra juice. So all of this will happen with an eclipse. That means big changes to my Mercury, which is in Aries. So there it is there. So let me see what else I wanted to talk about. So 10 out of 10 recommend Hecate, especially if you're doing liminal work, or if you just kind of want to get into the whole magical scene. She's very approachable, and she definitely comes. If you call her, especially if you get a copy of the PGM, you can do something like that. Other people have different ways of approaching her. She's very well known in pagan communities. So I'm just adding that into the mix. So updates as far as what's coming up next. So I plan on getting back into some Enochian channeling. I'll be doing one in particular for Boraoth, when Neptune will be in an exact trine to my Jupiter. So I'm going to call forth the the angelic king of Heptarchical angelic king of Binapur, as well as his prince Batmono, and also call forth Boraoth, and I'll probably do the call to the Aethers using her name. And I call her. She strikes me as feminine, but very Neptunian. So I'm figuring, okay, let's take advantage of Neptune making this very exact aspect in my chart. And I intend to keep on doing that with some of the other angelic kings, just to get a nice, in case people are interested in this convergence between magic and astrology, astrological magic, specifically Enochian astrological magic. This will be a nice way for people to see, working with these energies directly. It'll be harder to tease out the difference between the two, but at least this will be an example, a case study example of what does somebody experience when they're specifically calling forward this energy for the purposes of ritual magic to share with folks. So that'll be cool, I hope. So anyway, so that's going on. I'm excited about that. So my plan is to do that for Neptune, and then also for the angelic kings, king and prince of Saturn, when that happens I think in June is when that makes the exact trine to my natal Jupiter, which is in Leo, very early Leo, about 0.5 degree. So that's coming up. And yeah, I am also going to get an astrological reading, mainly because I want to make sure I know what's going on with this eclipse and see what else I can get out of that. So I'm going to go, I can read my own chart, but I do like getting somebody else's opinion and seeing what they have to say that I may not be aware of. So that's coming up on Saturday, which is tomorrow. Wow. This has been quite a week. So that's what's going on there. So I am trying to get my energy back up. The angels of medicine have said, keep working out. Try to do that every day. I said, okay, I'm trying. So it seems like there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, when the angels were saying cocooning, some of that had to do with getting my physical form back under control. And also and by the way, there's a little medical issue, something going on with my heart. So we'll see what happens. I am at that, could drop dead at any stage. And I don't say that lightly. But guys, we do tend to, it can just happen like that in an instant. So I've been very aware of my mortality of late. So who knows? Chances are it'll just be medicine and that'll be it. Okay. So that's going on. So I need to get a heart ultrasound. So that's going on. And what else did I want to mention? Something else about that. So yeah, anyway, I just prefer to get somebody else's view on that. So that's what's going on with me. And then, but obviously the other part of cocooning, that emerging from the cocoon, is coming up as a different person. So I think Michael Metatron, I feel like that for whatever reason, it's like, yeah, I've probably should have been called that from the beginning. So that's usually a good indication that it's resonating pretty well with you. And I'm a Leo rising, so the sun, Michael associated with the sun, at least in more recent times. And by that, I mean, last several hundred years. And Metatron, obviously, again, this is like an aspirational, it's the aspiring to meet with that level of identification of being angelic and helping other folks as well as yourself go through the journey. And not to say that you're an expert, but we're all doing our best, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's not wrong to aspire to be closer to the divine. So anyway, I just wanted to give you all an update. And I think this dog looks sacked out, but he's going to be very excited when I take him in to see his cousin, the cat. So, you ready? You want to go? Okay. All right. I'll talk to you later. Here he is. Good boy.